Thank you all very much for coming. This is a meeting of the Metrolinx Board of Directors, a special purpose meeting to consider the recommendation of management that we adjust the fees on Up Express and various related matters. We'll proceed with advising who's on the telephone. Present for you colleagues who are on the telephone, present at the table are Janet Ecker and Ian Dobson and Howard Shearer, Bruce McQuaig, and myself from the board. And Alba, why don't you read out who's on the telephone?
I have Upkar Aurora, Raul Bardwaj, Brian Davies, Bill Fish, Marion McKenna, and Bonnie Patterson. Have I missed anyone?
Perfect. And Rose Patton and Ann Golden are not able to attend today. Bruce, I think we'll proceed by asking you to make opening comments. Then we'll have a presentation from Kathy and Steve Naylor. And then we'll open it up for questions and discussion. And in due course, I will seek a resolution. I should also note that we received correspondence on the matter from Mr. Sid Pradhan that has been circulated to members of the board. With that, Bruce, fire away.
Thank you very much, Chair. As the board knows, 9 months ago, we launched North America's first air rail link service, and it was a milestone for Metrolinx, thanks to all the hard work of many people across the organization, as well as the partners that we have in terms of building and now delivering the service. We had 4 key objectives in terms of delivering this service. First, we wanted to commit to delivering the service on time and on budget in time for the Pan Am Parapan Games. And of course, we achieved that objective. We opened our doors to customers in June of 2015. Second, we aim to deliver a service that has high operational excellence for our customers. And we are very proud of the service that we have provided with an on-time performance of over 97%. We believe that's an important part of any kind of a service that is getting people to and from an international airport. Third, as with all the kinds of services that we deliver at Metrolinx, we want to make sure that we provide a very positive customer experience for the people who are using the service on a day-to-day basis. And we were very pleased that very much right off the bat that upwards of 87% of the people who were using the service would recommend the service to their family and to their friends. Our fourth objective has been the more difficult objective to achieve, which is the average daily ridership of 5,000 customers by the end of our first year of operation, which would take us to June of 2016. And while we're continuing to work on a wide variety of initiatives to address issues like the awareness of the service among the target market, as well as trying to address the ingrained travel behaviors and habits of people who are used to getting to the airport by taxi, by limousine, by car, by other means. We've also concluded that given the current scenario, we're unlikely to reach this target by June. We've identified barriers such as low awareness, ingrained travel habits, difficulty finding the service given the complexity of the Pearson environment and the complexity at Union Station. But it's also clear that the ridership levels need to increase. And that's why we developed a plan to significantly reduce the Union Pearson Express fares. We know that our customers love the service, so what we are putting forward to the board today is a focus on a change to bring more customers aboard, and that by starting to become our customers, they will continue to use the service and will build loyalty over time. And we believe that significantly reducing the prices will help address not only new riders, but also make the service more affordable for families and for commuters. And over the long term, we're confident that this will make for a sustainable service. So Metrolinx was established to create an integrated transit network and transportation network in this region. The Union Pearson Express is part of that service, and by the measures that are proposed today, we think that we can improve the role of the transit service in building ridership and taking its proper place in terms of the transportation system. So with that, I'm going to ask Kathy Haley and Steve Naylor. We've got a short slide presentation to take us through in the next 7 minutes or so that we have time for questions from the board.
Very good. Thank you very much, Bruce, and good evening, everyone. Well, I'd say that since we launched our service about 9 months ago, we've learned a great deal. We've learned about the market, we've learned about our customers, we understand what they value about our service. What we do know, and Bruce intimated this, is once people try it, they love it. Just try it once and they want to come back again. They love the reliability of the service. They appreciate the excellent customer service and the services that we offer, like complimentary Wi-Fi and many others. But what we've also learned is that there are some impediments to our service. Bruce referred to them as the barriers that are impacting our ridership levels. And so this evening I'd like to review some of those barriers and put forward our plans that we are putting forward to encouraging trial and to overcome those barriers so we can bring our ridership up, so to speak. So the plan includes a new fare structure, and this is what we are proposing to the board for your consideration and approval this evening. It's a revised fare structure that will recommend significant reductions to fares for travel to and from Pearson Airport, as well as savings for those traveling between Union, Bloor, and Weston stations. For those of you that are on the phone, I'm going to skip over pages 4, 5, and 6, as Bruce had alluded to those in his opening comments about our operating performance, our reliability, and customers' reaction to the service. So let me move to the barriers and perceptions about the service. We've identified through our market research, through information from our frontline staff, and through close monitoring, that first, we continue to have an overall level of low awareness of the service amongst target customers, those that are in the target audience, and of course those that are living outside of the catchment area in other domestic jurisdictions and indeed around the world. So building awareness and marketing efforts are required to build the service. We know that. Secondly, there are deeply entrenched travel habits getting to and from the airport, and these habits are proven very difficult to change. We know that 70% of people make decisions based on habit and what they've done before, and they typically do the same thing over and again. We know that 26% of people are told how they're going to take ground transportation to the airport. Individuals are used to driving, they're used to taking cabs and limos, and the rise of car rideshare services is increasing, and so we need more effort to incentivize people to change their car-centric behaviors and take the train. Third, there's uncertainty about navigating complex environments. Bruce alluded to that at Pearson and Union. There seems to be some level of inertia, and they even struggle with just finding ways to figure out how to best get there. And the fourth is perceptions about our price. There's limited knowledge about the exact price. There's not a clear understanding of the Presto discounts or of the concession discounts, and it's viewed by some segments as generally expensive. So we're proposing a multifaceted strategy to continue to build interest, incent trial, and build a loyal customer base. And as part of this strategy is this new fare structure that I'll move to next. We are proposing revised fares for Up Express. These will become effective subject to your approval on March the 9th, and we are recommending significant reductions. So from travel to and from Pearson Airport and downtown Toronto, the new proposed Presto fare is $9, $12 with a Presto card. So the Presto fare is a 25% discount off the cash fare.
You said $12 with a Presto card. I
Sorry,
think you meant
$12 cash.
without a Presto card.
$12 without a Presto card. For seniors, the Presto fare is only $5.64, and the cash fare is $6. Children 12 and under will continue to ride for free, and we have a non-Presto family fare for 2 adults and 3 children, 19 and under, for only $25. So that's a great March break traveling rate. We're also having alignment with Go fares for the online stations, and to simplify the fare table, we're introducing fares by the number of stops, be it 3 stops, 2 stops, or 1 stop. So for example, downtown Union to the airport has 3 stops, one at Bloor Dundas West Go Station, one at Weston, and one at Pearson, and the Presto prices I previously mentioned will be $9 for that. A two-stop fare would include Union to Weston and Bloor to Weston, and the Presto fare is only $5.02. And a one-stop fare would be between Union to Bloor, Bloor to Weston, or Weston to Pearson for only $4.71. So Up Express will now be the same price as GO trains at Bloor and Weston stations, providing people in these communities another option, great traveling option, every 15 minutes for 19 and a half hours a day. You may recall during Family Day weekend, we had thousands of families. In fact, we had over 43,000 people try and experience the service. And we had lots of families loving to come to downtown Toronto to enjoy the city on Up. And this March break, families can come into downtown from Bloor for only $11 with this new family rate. I'm a mother of 3 boys, and I would have loved that rate to take my kids and have something to do during March break. In fact, I would have loved it even more when they were 13 and under because kids travel for free. So I could have come from my station at Bloor and got downtown with my kids for $4.71. So I don't think you can beat that great rate. We will be posting and having more information on both the Metrolinx and the Up websites. So what are the benefits of this fare structure? Well, fundamentally, and the primary objective is to increase ridership by attracting more customers to use the Up Express experience and getting more air travelers to convert from their current modes of ground transportation. Secondly, we want to simplify the fare structure by aligning the number of stops a passenger travels to. We think that'll make it easier for them. Ultimately, we want to promote the Presto card usage. We do want to address the public perception that the fares are too high, and we want to provide additional transportation options for communities served by Up Express, including the Weston and Bloor communities. In addition to the proposed fare structure, we will continue to build awareness and promote trial. We think that's important. We know that price is one barrier, but it's not the only one. So as we're addressing awareness, our tactics will continue to target the airport traveling community, but we will also target the local communities along the corridor and businesses with high traffic volumes. We'll promote in the catchment areas, on the GO network, through social media, and to incoming leisure travelers attending conventions and those enjoying city hotels, tourism, entertainment destinations in the downtown core. For people that are coming into the city, we will continue to advertise to inbound customers on air flights at the airport. We'll make it easier for arriving passengers by putting up service kiosks at key locations, and we'll continue to work with our partners to improve signage at Pearson, Union, and in the Skywalk, so we'll be much more easier to find and to navigate. We have a lot of people that tell me that they'll get dropped off at the front of Union Station instead of at 97 Front or on 20 York. And so this is an example of putting dominant signs on the outside of the building so there's greater clarity about where taxis or cars can drop them off. So in conclusion, we believe that these tactics, along with our new fare structure, will help to change deeply entrenched travel habits and welcome lots of new riders on board, and we welcome them. And based on the positive feedback we've already heard today, we think that these changes are good news for both air travelers and local communities that Metrolinx serves, and I hope the board will approve the recommendation that we're putting on the table.
Thank you very much, Kathy. Steve, anything you want to add?
No.
Thank you, Steve. Characteristically brief. Bruce, is it open for discussion?
Absolutely, Chair.
The floor is open. For those of you on the telephone, make some noise if you want to come into the conversation. Janet, why don't I start with you?
Kathy, thanks very much for a comprehensive outline. Is there anything that, when you look back on it, is there anything that you think, with 20/20 hindsight, that we should have done differently, or that we should have anticipated, or sort of seen, or is this kind of the kind of growing pains that sometimes happen with something new like this?
I think like any new business, you have growing pains and you have to listen and learn and improve, and that's exactly what we've done. I mean, there's some indications that some of the market conditions have changed since we launched and we're in the market that we wouldn't have predicted. I wouldn't have forecast how deeply entrenched those behaviors were.
And getting people out of their cars?
And getting people out of their cars. A lot of the analysis we had done was in Europe and Asia, where trains are loved, and I even have some of our customers say, I'll definitely take the train in London, but I wouldn't think about taking it in Toronto. So for some reason, there is a North American appreciation and love for the car. But we also know that we have 65% of our customers that have experienced air, rail links, and commuter services around the world, and they like it. So I believe, and we're very fortunate, that people love the product.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
The product is not broken.
Yeah.
We just need to get people to try it, because of the people that try it, they say they won't turn back.
Yeah.
Kathy, you mentioned market conditions have changed. Is that a reference to Uber, or is that a reference to some other things in the market that have changed?
Predominantly ride-sharing services. When we had done the forecasting, we had not anticipated that new market condition coming into effect,
And that's done what? That's cut the price of a limo by half?
at least, depending upon the time of day.
Right. Ian?
All-Star Weekend produced a tremendous amount of interest. Let's assume, for example, that the new fares that we may approve today drive up ridership, and to the point where we've got some periods when we're got lineups like we did on All-Star Weekend. Are we in a position to improve the capacity of the service at this pricing, or in a reasonable period of time at a reasonable amount of money? Can we build on the capacity we have now?
On the current system for Up Express, we do have a finite capacity. We have a 3-car consist train set, and we can only put 3 cars at Pearson Airport. There's no additional capacity for more cars. There is at Union, but not at Pearson. So we would have to manage with the headways and try to reduce the travel times.
That'd be a welcome problem.
It would be a welcome problem.
Let's get there and we'll cross that bridge. Howard, did you have anything you want to ask?
Yes, I have 2 questions building on Ian's question. From a customer service perspective, it could be said that because of the current ridership level, the system was not stressed. But obviously, with the family day experience, the system was stressed. And where do you see, from a customer service point of view, the areas where it could be improved going forward? And the second item supplemental is, have you given any thought to, is there a special arrangement for example, men in uniform like the police or the military, for example, as they transition to or from work?
Yeah, so on the first one for customer service, we did learn a lot from Family Day weekend. I assume, Howard, that you're meaning the difference between the airport travelers and the other Family Day travelers. And so we recognized that our air travelers needed to get to the front of the line so that they didn't miss their flights. And we had people waiting in lineups, believe it or not, for 2, sometimes 3 hours to wait to take this service. Quite patient and quite enthusiastic, looking forward to getting on the train. But we did not want to turn down people that were getting to their flights. So we had a dual line system. It worked very well. I was extremely proud of the team and how they managed it to make sure that it was clear that you can get to the front of the line, and we stewarded them to take the train. I think we would continue to monitor that and learn as we grew capacity, because I do think there's a certain level of standard that they like. They like to have a seat, like to have Wi-Fi, and those things will be important. So we would need to monitor that. As it relates to uniforms, I guess in 2 areas. We like the fact that the airport employees, many of whom are in uniform, are on the system. We see a lot of them in the pilots or the stewardesses. We honor the same system that we do on the GO system, that for policed uniforms, that they're also welcomed onto the system.
And the military as well.
The military, I don't think so.
Okay.
Rahul, I'm just going to go down the telephone, see if you have any questions. Rahul?
Sure, thank you. Much of the conversation so far, Kathy, has been around local purchases. My question has to do more with the business traveler, particularly those that are coming from, let's say, U.S. or overseas. But this price reduction, they're getting a heck of a good deal, which on the one hand is a good thing. On the other one is that we're going to have to sell a lot more tickets to make up for that revenue gap. Can you speak a little bit more about what our enhancements are going to be around marketing, particularly for business travelers, and what they're going to see in marketing perhaps in their own areas or their own cities before they arrive or on the way here?
For business travelers coming from outside?
Exactly.
Well, we do have a comprehensive business development program for businesses that have a high percentage of employees that travel, not only in the Greater Toronto area, but also in cities around the world, mostly in other jurisdictions in Canada, Montreal, Vancouver, Calgary, those high densely populated cities with a high percentage of people that are traveling them. So we market to them through direct business activities, through activations. We target to their procurement offices, to their CEOs. We do need to market a little bit more, as we're doing, to encourage heads of business to encourage their people to travel more.
So I guess my question is, a little bit more or a lot more?
Well, a lot more. Employees tell us through research that they love to take the cars. The companies are agreeing to expense to take the limos and the cars, and if they were told or encouraged by their organizations to take a more economical, more efficient, cheaper, more environmentally sound, that they would do that. So I think there's an opportunity for us to encourage businesses and senior leaders to encourage their organizations to take the train.
Can I just reframe my question just to touch on the last point? Your answer is a little bit about local employers encouraging their employees to use the Express. My question is more specifically about foreign travelers in foreign cities. I know we're doing some marketing there. Are you anticipating ramping that up substantially?
We are ramping up. It's an affordability issue, Raul. We are ramping up for digital. We are ramping up to target their organizations. We will not be able to afford mass media into those markets. What we are doing is we are identifying those highly populated airports where there's most traffic into Toronto. So New York, Washington, Boston, Vancouver, those airports, because we know that a high percentage of people make the ground transportation decisions if it's not told by the company as they're traveling. So getting them in the airports, their departing airport, on the planes, where they can actually download the app, buy the ticket in Toronto Airport. The closer you are to Toronto destination, that's where they're going to make the decision. And so that's why we have more targeting business efforts in those direct airports.
Thank you.
Bruce is going to supplement.
Just to add one piece, and Kathy, you can expand on this. We're also piloting in airports like the Montreal Airport, in the domestic departures area, where there's rapid air coming in frequently into the Toronto marketplace, for example, advertising and marketing in those kinds of locations. And depending on the success of that, is we would bring that also to other marketplaces, whether that's a Calgary or Vancouver or New York or Washington, so that we're trying to reach people before they get on a plane about what the opportunity is to get to the downtown area from Pearson.
Let me go to Carl next. Carl, do you have any questions? You know, everybody doesn't have to have a question. It's just, I'm just going to go down the roll call to see if you want to come in. Carl?
I have one question. The preamble is simply that given the customer satisfaction rate has been high at this point, and obviously that would be primarily for those who are going between Union Station and the airport, or vice versa. I want to make sure that when we have more passengers who are commuting, as opposed to going from the airport to Union, that in fact we are conscious of any of the potential conflicts that may be with the airport passengers with their luggage, etc., because we are servicing two different types of passengers here, and I'm wondering if Bruce can speak to that.
Absolutely, and first of all, making sure that we're meeting both those markets in this new fare structure will be important. In one respect, it would be I would say a good challenge to have if we had our boarding levels at such a point that we're managing those kinds of conflicts. So, but we have tested, whether it was on the Family Day weekend or at other points, different kinds of strategies to make sure that we can serve both markets appropriately. And I think that would be our objective, and is to ensure that we minimize those conflicts as much as possible. You know, there would be different peaking characteristics between commuter travel and the airport peaks, so that helps us to some extent, but we will be monitoring that very closely.
Okay, thank you. I think this proposal is what is needed at the present time.
Thank you very much. Carl, Bonnie?
I was just wondering, Rob and Bruce, whether someone might shed a little bit more light on an issue. We know that we had the really lofty objective of having the service recover its full operating costs within a number of years. And we heard the minister talking today. So obviously you've had the significant conversations with them, and there seems to be some comfort with what you're bringing forward today. Can you just give a little more light on what this really means in terms of subsidized transit, kind of as a newer objective now being put into this particular space? And obviously, as I said, the minister's found his comfort, or he wouldn't have been making his comments today. But could you just shed a little more light on that for us?
Absolutely. So it's clear that our priority at this point in time is to build the ridership in the service. So we want to make sure that the service can play a broader role in moving people in the city and in the region. And the change in the fare structure is a move to try to make that happen, together with the other initiatives related to awareness and adoption that Kathy has outlined. We recognize that by changing the fare structure, we're going to change the dynamic in terms of the revenue that's collected through the service. But at the same time, this is a new product in the marketplace. Obviously, we had ridership and revenue forecasts that were based on the original modeling. I think what we'll be looking for is to understand how the market responds to the new pricing structure and our efforts to build awareness. And we'll be reporting back to the board in terms of what does that mean in terms of the revenue and in terms of the subsidies that are required for the service. And we'll be having those conversations on an ongoing basis with the province as well.
That's great. So, we're always making trade-offs when we're in transportation investment for the long term. And it seems to me, Bruce, that you've really clarified the kinds of trade-offs we're pursuing for this particular new focus and objective of ridership, and more of the population will find the benefits from it.
Thank you.
Billy?
Yeah, all my questions have been asked and answered, Rob. Being near the end of the line here, I'm supportive of the motion, and so we'll move forward on that basis.
Thank you, Bill. Upcart?
Rob, all my questions have been asked except for one minor one, and then Bruce, how often would you reevaluate the fare structure? Is it similar to GO, where you look at it on an annual basis, or what would the plan be?
I think we would move towards, as we get into a stable operating environment for the service, into an annual review of the ridership and the revenue and the fare increases that are associated with that. We review the GO fares on an annual basis, and I would imagine that we would be looking at how this service is performing on that kind of a regular basis as well.
Thanks, Bruce.
Marianne?
Thank you, Rob. I think it's important to sort of see the Up Express not as a standalone transit product, but as something that's integrated, and in the future, the planning is to integrate better at Bloor Street, to integrate the Eglinton Crosstown. And I think one of the challenges right now is that it is, for many people, it does feel like Union to Pearson and vice versa. Can you just sort of connect the dots for us in terms of how ultimately this is part of a network that connects at other places, and just what the timing on some of those future connectivity points are?
Maybe I'll just talk about the Crosstown project, and I'll ask Kathy to speak about Bloor and the connection into the subway system. On the Crosstown, we've planned for a station for both GO transit services as well as Union Pearson Express services as part of the construction of the Crosstown. So in 2021, we see that there is a very high-level rapid transit connection, basically walking from one level to another level from the Mount Dennis station on the Crosstown up to both the GO and the Union Pearson Express services. So we think that will be a really important connection both locally and into the regional transit services. So that is one piece. The second,
That opens 2021.
2021.
As Crosstown opens.
That's right. That's the objective, is to have that station open at the same time. It's built into the contract that Crosslinx is required to deliver to us. So that's the one important addition that will come in that time frame. And Kathy, can you just speak to Bloor Station? And
Yes, well, the Bloor and Weston, obviously, we share with Go Transit, so we have both brands and operations through the system. For the Bloor Station, we're adjacent to the TTC, but we don't have direct connection, so we need a tunnel through that, and that will probably take about 5 years before that is completed.
Take an extra minute or two to describe the problem, because some members of the board know it, but not everybody would be familiar with what the problem is in getting from the TTC subway station to the Go and Up Express station, the physical challenge.
So the physical challenge is you literally need to come out of the station and literally almost walk across the street before you can get into the TTC station. So it's not a direct connection into TTC.
And the long-term solution is,
A direct tunnel from our station into their station.
and why can't we start digging it later on this evening? Explain the problem.
Bruce, do you want to go there?
so there is private property owners between ourselves and the Dundas West subway station, and we're in the process of having conversations and pursuing an expropriation ultimately of a subsurface corridor that would allow us then to build the tunnel connection. So this is something that the city and the TTC have attempted to create over a number of years. We're now taking responsibility for that, and we believe it's an important part of the connectivity from between the regional and the local networks, and it will make the Dundas West Bloor interchange that much better.
Is that responsive, Marianne?
Yes, no, I think it's really important because if you think about travelers who, travel outside of the city, you go for the day. And so being able to connect to larger residential areas is really important. And that is the Bloor, I think that is the Bloor line, or, part of it is that Bloor line connection. So that sounds good. I think it's really an important priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian?
Thanks, Rob. Really, my colleagues have asked all the questions I had. I was particularly interested in the responses to the questions posed by Bonnie and Upcar about looking to review the outcomes of this change, and also to have periodic fare reviews in the future. So I look forward as a board member to receiving those updates as this change is evaluated over time. If it would be helpful, Chair, I'd be willing to move the motion before us.
Thank you very much for that. Let me just see, before we move to the motion, if anybody on the telephone or anybody at the table has a second round of questions. Is there any matter, anybody?
I just had one, Rob, it's Bonnie. This has been intense in terms of the analysis done behind this, but do we have a kind of rollout plan on the announcement of it, given how much news there's been today in terms of the minister's comments?
Bruce, how do you plan to tell the public what we've done, other than hoping that the media will report it, as they always do faithfully?
Yes. So obviously, there will be a customer-facing communication strategy to push out information on the new fare structure as we approach March the 9th. We also know that, for example, we will continue with our existing fare structure while we're doing system changes in the background over the next couple of weeks, and we will be building into that process complimentary tickets to people who are purchasing tickets, so that they understand that they're getting the benefit right off the bat, as well as we move to the new fare structure. But whether it's through our social media channels, our web channels, other forms of advertising that we would typically put in place, we'll be pushing this information out over the next number of weeks.
And when does it come into effect?
March the 9th.
March 9th.
March the 9th, because
Yeah, March 9th, yeah.
what you call systems is just the programming of Presto, is that right?
Yeah.
It's the programming in Presto. It's also the online ticket channels that we use for e-ticketing. It's also the fact that we will need to have more Presto devices, for example, for Go fares on the Up platform. So there's a variety of different system and infrastructure pieces that need to be put into place.
Brian, that was good of you to offer to move the motion. Is there a seconder on the phone?
I will, it's Marianne.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Let me see if there are any further questions or any further discussion. Howard, you okay?
I'm fine.
You okay, Ian? Janet, you okay?
Yep.
Anybody on the phone have any further questions or concerns? Any last words, Bruce?
No, I think we've gone through the material. Thank you, Chair.
So I'm going to ask you to signal your disapproval, say nay if you have reservations or if you don't support the motion. Does anybody on the telephone wish to say nay? Does anybody at the table wish to say nay? And I will interpret that as everybody is saying yay. And that's unanimous support for this. Kathy, Steve, Bruce, I know you've been working night and day to sort this out. I'm glad we're taking a bold new step. I hope we're going to increase utilization a lot. It's a beautiful public asset, and this should let a lot more people use it and put it to good use. Thank you very much. Unless anybody wishes to raise any other matter, we'll terminate the meeting. Thank you all very much for making yourselves available on short notice, and we'll see you soon. The meeting's
Thank you, Rob and Bruce.
meeting's terminated.
No, well,
These are just things that Judy's been saying.
no, I didn't.